motivation to go ahead and get into this crazy world of bodybuilding. Because honey, this stuff is crazy, it's insane, it requires so much sacrifice of your sanity and more. What are you chasing these trophies for? So many of you are chasing the trophies to turn pro. What do you think you're gonna go ahead and gain as a pro, no matter what the federation? Because the costs that may be involved with that, not only monetarily, but just your sanity, your health, your relationships, and more will be greatly impacted by that goal. So the question really is it worth it? That's what I want to go ahead and talk about today. You know, the beautiful thing about the world that we live in right now is that times have just really changed. Back in the day, if you were not a pro or you weren't in the mix, you probably were not going to be seen on any of the magazines. You weren't going to get any opportunities in film, television, commercials. You weren't going to be able to be an author, a writer, in any of the fitness magazines or anything like that. The pro to promotional pipeline was the only way to go. And to be more specific, if you really want to go there, being an IFBB pro was the only way to go. You had the Weeders, they owned every magazine out there, and the amount of exposure that you can get by being on the IFBB stage was tremendous when you were looking to build your profile in the industry. But you know what, honey? Times have changed, and you know it. The only thing you need to be successful is a cell phone, an Instagram account, and a TikTok or something like that, okay? You don't even need to have any kind of credentials or ever compete in order to have success in fitness. So it really comes down to, what is this stuff for? Why do you want to turn pro? And that's what I want to kind of talk about today. As you know, I am an IFBB pro. I will be an IFBB pro till the day I die, even though I may never step on the IFBB stage again, okay? Because I'm done, I'm good, I done did everything I needed to do. But having that pro status, man, that has been just something that's an amazing accomplishment for me. And so I do encourage you that if you have that as a goal, to go for it. Now, here's the thing. Not everybody's going to be able to get there. Even though bodybuilding has grown tremendously in the last couple of years, more competitors means more competition. So although it seems like they're giving out more pro cards than ever, when you think about the sheer volume of how many competitors are showing up at these pro qualifiers, it's kind of keeping in line with what the current numbers are. But because there are so many pros, being a pro today isn't like this special thing that it used to be in the past. I mean, you got pros who get their card and then they never compete again. And then on the other hand, you got influencers who have never stepped on a stage before, who are ranking in thousands upon thousands of dollars a month just because they've been able to build up a viable platform to help the public with their health and fitness, inspire others. So really, it comes down to, what do you want to do? What are some of the pros of being a pro? Well, I think just the accomplishment and being able to do something that you might have set your heart out for, and to say, hey, you know what? I went for it and I did it. That's an amazing thing to just be able to experience. There is that credential of it. Of course, if you're a pro, more people are going to take you seriously than if you were an amateur, especially if you do well as a pro. I can say that me being an IFBB pro, but one who has also competed at the Olympia, gives me a kind of authority to talk about the sport of bodybuilding in a way that someone who's never done that can't do. Now, of course, there is the ability to win prize money when you actually place in the top 5. But as a woman in the sport, don't get too excited, because the prize money for us isn't as big as it is for the men. There's a huge discrepancy there. So you ain't getting rich off of it, sister, okay? You ain't getting rich off of this. Now, unless you know how to build something else off of this, you ain't getting rich from just being a pro. It ain't happening. In some federations, you don't have to pay for any more entry fees or anything like that. So you get to kind of save some money. You might even be able to get some sponsorship for coaching, for posing classes, for supplements, and more. So you might be able to save some money in that way if you're able to secure those things. Now, are there any cons to being a pro? That's something you don't really hear people talk about. And I'm going to say, yes, there are. There is always a growing pressure to just be at the top of the sport. And to be at the top of the sport means that you put your whole entire life on hold and everything revolves around your bodybuilding career. For so many of you, that is just not realistic. I mean, if you're someone who's single and you don't have any kids yet, if you don't have the responsibility of pets or anything like that, so you get to travel everywhere you want, you get to be at the gym all hours of the day and night, then yeah, I mean, you're going to be able to be more successful at this. But the moment you start throwing in family and children and relationships and other responsibilities, your actual real job, because again, honey, nobody making no money, so you got to have a real job on the side, it can be exhausting, all consuming. And for those who have a longevity in the sport, notice how the top pros, they don't compete throughout the year. If you look at some of the top pros in the IFBB, for instance, they're going to be looking at the bigger shows to compete at. If they're really cream of the crop and they're already qualified for the Olympia, they're probably going to just do the Olympia and maybe the Arnold. They might throw in another show just to be able to warm up. But for the top competitors in the sport, that's a kind of risky thing to even do. So they don't even do that. They sit out. Now, if you go ahead as a pro and pace yourself to do maybe 2 or 3 shows in the year, then you're golden. But if you're chasing points, you're chasing qualifications, and you're trying to get to this top, honey, it's going to drive you insane, especially year after year. There's also the other side, the darker side that we don't talk about. And that is the usage of anabolic steroids. Now, unless you're in one of the natural organizations, this conversation isn't really for you, but for those of you who are in organizations where drug usage is high, mighty, and out there, honey, you're just gonna have to go ahead and get you on a cycle. And if you're a woman, that's not gonna be too good, girl. Not unless you really want to. And that's the allure about bodybuilding. You get so sucked up in the world of it that your perception of what looks normal as far as like your look and how much you change when you start using that stuff, it becomes totally skewed. Some women go too far and then they get out of it and they're like, damn, like, what did I do to myself? Watch out for it, girls. Watch out for it. That's all I'm saying. The other dark side that we don't really talk about is how folks can easily fall into eating disorders and body dysmorphia. Listen, you spend all of your days and nights counting calories, worrying about what you're eating, training yourself to death, doing 2-3 hours of cardio a day. Like, you're just doing way too much. When that becomes your norm, it just screws with your mind. Not only does it screw with your mind, it also messes up your body a whole lot. I know competitors who have digestive issues, they have hormonal issues, all from just how they trained and prepped for shows and lived this lifestyle in a way that's completely unhealthy. We all know about the bodybuilders that have been dropping like flies left and right, dying because of the sport. It's dangerous out there. So you can really become too mentally unstable by getting into the sport and really not giving yourself the ability to see balance in your life. And I really warn you about that one. And then this next one is something that people don't really talk about. There is this seedy underground in bodybuilding, a pornographic underground in bodybuilding that's been around for years. Actually, the Washington Post exposed this about 2 years ago when they did a series on the IFBB and some of the things that people were alleging were happening under the table. And I'm going to tell you something. As someone who was living through that at that time, we all know that that was very real. The stuff that came out in that article, honey, that was not a lie. Okay, we all know it was very real, but the IFBB swept that under the rug. But nowadays, we got stuff like OnlyFans. We got other things that people can put themselves out there. So the stuff that they was doing, honey, that is tame compared to the stuff that folks are doing now to them damn selves, okay? But it's easy to get caught up in that and think that that's normal. Oh, I compete, so in order to make some extra money, I'm going to go ahead and do an OnlyFans and really expose myself on the internet because that's what everybody does. There is a really seedy underside to bodybuilding that just is no one talks about. The schmoes and the muscle worship and all these things that have been around for years and years and years, honey. I see it popping up on my thread, on my feed to this day. And I warn you, it's easy to get lured in with a photographer saying, hey, you know what? Let me shoot you for this website, or let me go ahead and shoot you for this thing. And then before you know it, you are just like a muscle fetish queen of the day and all this other stuff going on. Okay, listen, I warned you. Nobody talks about it, but I'm telling you, I've been in this for a long time, honey, okay? Listen, I know if you got into this far in this video, you're probably like, Roxy, this is too crazy, girl. I don't even know if I turn pro. I don't even know if I want to start. Listen, I don't mean to scare you, okay? I just want to tell you what's out there because who's talking about this stuff? Ain't nobody, right? But if you want to go ahead and compete, which I encourage you to do, and you're just starting out, or you just want to know how to do things smarter and better, go ahead and download my free contest prep crash course. Scan the QR code that you see right there on the screen, and I'll give you some tips on how you can do this the smart way and keep your integrity intact at the same time. How about that? So the verdict here, is it worth it to turn pro in 2024? I would still say yes, it's worth it depending on your goals and what you want to do. Earning a pro card isn't everything though, and it's all about having fun in the sport, And just like being proud of doing something that you set your mind on and a bucket list item that you're able to knock off and say, hey, you know what? I did it and I did it to the best of my abilities. But you know what will really inspire you? The stories of other competitors who have had success in this game. So let me go ahead and show you some of my clients right over here. Click this playlist where they have been able to step out there on that stage and win, honey. Some of them turn pro as well. So check these out, stay inspired, subscribe, and I will see you over there.